I'm going to say a couple of things. And I also read Judge Chen's decision, and I also did the research, pro and con, and I also think that we should have taken more time to discuss the item. Having said that, we're here. And talking about notice, I mean, truthfully, the school board's going to be the one that's going to probably have to deal with this more so than we will, to be honest with you, because it's the children who will have to know that there won't be whether or not fluoridation is good or not, bad for them in the water. But there was a time in American history where smoking was actually considered healthy. It sounds weird, I know. It sounds weird, but it's true. If you go back and look at the ads, and you'll say 4 out of 5 doctors smoke blank, because it was a belief that it was actually healthy, when in fact it wasn't. So things do change over time. And looking at the research, absolutely there are a number of cities, a number of countries. The state of Utah, I believe, recently just actually took the decision to take the fluoride out of the water. I personally believe, with all these discussions that we have, and certainly whether it's our children, including my 3, and I'm glad the Surgeon General is here. I hope the state of Florida actually, and there's a bill that for some reason apparently the beverage industry is fighting. You know what? Diet Coke, Coca-Cola is just as bad, and they're really bad for kids. It's bad for teenage kids. They shouldn't be drinking that either, to be honest with you. If we're going to be honest about all these things, and let's do it the right way. Let's say this is bad because type 2 diabetes for teenage children has gone up to historical numbers because we're feeding them food. And by the way, we're responsible for it in many cases, because it's easier to give your kids some chips, nachos or whatever than give them something healthy. In the end, there is choice there, because you can buy or not buy that. Your kid doesn't have a choice. The parent does. When the child gets to a certain age, they may be able to make their own choice. So, to me, this comes down to one simple question, and I don't know. We have the Surgeon General here, but I'm going to ask you, Roy, because you're the person responsible really for, and you do a great job running our water system. Would the removal of fluoride have a negative effect on our drinking water to our residents?
Only with respect if you believe fluoride is good for dental care. It does not impact the quality of the drinking water for hydration purposes.
Okay, so if it was removed, fluoride was removed from our drinking water, and we came back 6 months from now and everything else was the same, would you still make the same statement that you made before, that we have some of the finest drinking water, if not the finest, in the United States?
I would.
Okay. So for me, that takes care of some of my concerns. While I understand that it is an issue, if fluoride would be a problem to young children in particular, as some of the studies have said, or depending on the level, obviously, and the retort is the level has to be X, Y, and Z. And I do believe, by the way, I agree with Commissioner Gilbert, that we do have an obligation to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Miami-Dade County. It is in our charter. That's actually what we're supposed to do. Doesn't mean, and Commissioner Regalado is correct, that there are other entities that weigh in, whether it's the state DEP, the federal DEP, the EPA, et cetera. But if, in the end, the quality of our drinking water from the person that leads our department is not impacted by the removal of the amount of fluoride that we're discussing, then I think that, I'm going to end up on the side of supporting the item. Just because I think that if you were to tell me that would be a tremendously negative impact on not just children but adults, then it would be a different story. I think we're going to see more debates like this. There's, you can have your opinion one way or the other on what's happening at the state and it's certainly at the national level. But the one thing I agree with our secretary at the national level of Health and Human Services is that the American diet, the standard American diet, which if you take the acronym is the SAD diet, probably is having greater impact on the cost of the medication and the cost of health care in this country than anything else. And I hope, as much as we talked about this item, one day we can sit here and have that conversation about what we can do about it. It may not be much, but maybe there's some that we can do. And I'm going to support the item, Commissioner Gonzalez, and I too was, like some of my colleagues, on the fence. I did do the research because of the response that our director gave us. I don't see, if the response was even in some way ambivalent that the water would not be safe by removing the fluoride, then my vote would go the other way, but I'm going to support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bermudez. We're heading to Senator Garcia.